We need to make our pattern tile show more repeats, so when we add it to the mock-up it will naturally look like wallpaper across the wall. It's always best to make a copy of your original. This is so you don't overwrite and lose your master copy. I reduced my pattern down to 3 times to start with. You can repeat this as many or as few times as you need. Depending on the scale of your photo mock-up, you need to judge this to suit your own desired result. So now I'm going to show you how to reduce your pattern tile and make it show in repeat. So if you go to your gallery and find one of your pattern tiles that you've already made, if you tap it, it will open. Then if you go to the layers, you want to turn the bottom layer off and duplicate it 4 times. So the 4 times you duplicate it, it needs to be visible, so just make sure there's a tick in the box so that it's visible. You then go and tick the select arrow and you'll see the settings displaying the magnetics and snapping, so just make sure they're turned on and make sure that you're set to uniform so everything is reducing proportionately. And then you can begin to drag from the corners and drag them so that they fit in each corner, each quarter, and you then feel the snap when they fit into position. So if you do this for all 4, you can then check to see if there's any gaps. If you zoom in and have a little look, you'll be able to tell. If there is any, then you're just going to have to go back and redo it. And then when you're happy, just merge them, merge all the layers by pinching them, and then repeat them a further 4 times, and then repeat the process. As you can see, the pattern is beginning to show its repeats, which is going to be more useful for us when we pop it into our photograph mock-up. So I did this process 3 times, so I reduced it 3 times because I know it would suit my photograph. And this is something that you'll need to judge for yourself. Obviously scale, it depends if you're doing a whole wall or if you're showing a proportion of the wall, sort of how close up your image is, or how, you know, how much. If you're showing a full expanse, then you're going to need more repeats to be shown. So this is something that you need to judge for yourselves. So we're just setting the pattern up ready for when we've got our photo ready to place this pattern into. So we're just doing this first so that it's all ready to go. Okay, we start by opening our scene photograph and name it scene, and then we'll create a new layer and rename that glue layer. This is in fact going to be something that we'll clip onto and create a clipping mask over the top of, what I like to call it glue or wallpaper layer. In the brush library, if you choose the inking brush set and choose the studio pen, which is nice and opaque and can do quite nice fine detail, we then need to zoom in a little bit and begin to draw around all of the objects in the photograph. If you think of the white line being the paste, the wallpaper paste or the glue that the wallpaper is going to stick to, then that'll help you identify the areas you need to cover. If you use Procreate's functions like the draw a line and then hold, it automatically sort of goes into a straight line for you, which is quite nice around these straight edges that you can see here. You can make the brush bigger and smaller, obviously depending on the detail and you know, the areas that you need to cover. As you can see here, the greenery is quite detailed, so the smaller pen helps. As you go around, again, you can also use the curve function of the brush, so you can sometimes you can draw a little curve, and if you draw the curve and hold, the curve will snap to sort of a curved shape for you. That'll be helpful as well. So you can begin to block areas in also, so you can draw and colour with the pen, as you can see here, or if you create a path or sort of a hole, if you like, you can grab the colour from the colour chip there and drag and drop white in. It'll just colour fill an area, which sort of quickly fills the picture with the glue or the wallpaper paste. If you continue to go around all of the edges first, a bit like cutting in when you paint in, then it just makes the central pieces easier to fill. Always make sure that you go around the outside edges as well, and then you can see that I quickly colour filled the image once it was all outlined nice. Then if you turn the background layers off, you can then see where there's any holes or areas that have not filled properly, so just make sure these are all nicely filled in. Then we can go and get the wallpaper pattern. So if you go back to the one we prepared earlier where we got the multiple repeats, if you do a 3-finger swipe on the image, it'll let you copy, and then go back to your image and then do a 3-finger swipe and it'll allow you to paste. Then if you resize the pattern to cover where you've popped your glue, and then if you tap on the layer, if you tap on clipping mask, you'll see shortly, just rename your layer pattern so you know what you're doing. So if you see there, you've got clipping mask, you can see it instantly clips to the glue. If you duplicate the scene, this is where the magic happens. If we duplicate and rename that shadow layer, this is where we can bring our image to life and make it look more realistic by adding this shadow. If you then move your layer up to the top, and then if you click, you can see that it's a clipping mask, which is brilliant, it automatically does it. And then if you click on the little N, you'll be able to choose the blending mode and choose multiply. And then if you slide the opacity slider up and down, you can then choose how much shadow you'd like to appear over the top of the image. And as you can see there, it automatically makes the image look more realistic. So that's it. You've now got your image. You just need to just check it. If you zoom in just to check to make sure everything's covered and there's no bits missing or holes or areas that are covered that you don't want them to be. And obviously, because you've been through the process, if there was anything that's not quite right, you'd be able to go back through the process and maybe make some little adjustments there. But now you've got your image, your mock-up, you could name this template, and then anytime you want to reintroduce a new pattern, you can just duplicate it in Procreate and rename it a new design name, and then you can use this image as often as you like.